Great, can we go? It is now 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Free West City Council meeting. I totally just said that incorrectly. Welcome to the Free Heights City Council meeting. My name is John Pullman, Mayor of City Free Heights. We are meeting at an anchor location at 910 South Mountain Road, Free Heights City Type 4037. We're going to begin this meeting with a pledge of allegiance. It's going to be led by Mark, and I will give a prayer. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this day, the chance we have to meet as a community, to discuss the affairs of the community, and to work together to make this place, the city of Free Heights, the best place that we can. Please help us to make choices and to do what we can to meet the needs of all those who live in the city. We're very grateful for this opportunity to meet, to live in a free country, and to be able to exercise our rights as citizens of the United States of America. We love you and say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen. We're going to go on to the roll call.
Councilmember Curriason.
Here.
Councilmember Mark.
Here.
Councilmember Eileen Moss. Here. Councilmember George Ray.
Here.
Councilmember Florence Southern. Here. Mayor Johnson.
Here. Thank you. Item number 4, we put on all our agendas. This is a time for the city council to spend 3 minutes to train and to refresh our responsibilities as an elected official. Tonight's training is presented by Gary Anderson, Councilmember Anderson.
Okay, tonight's training is brought from our Powers and Duties Handbook on budgets for cities. I'm going to read a few little pieces out of that. A budget is a financial plan for a specific period of time that includes the estimated expenditures for given purposes and the proposed means of financing the expenditures. Budgets are made up of funds. All city budgets must have at least a general fund, any specific special revenue funds, a debit fund, and a capital improvement fund. Cities must also adopt operating capital budgets for enterprise funds. An enterprise fund is a fund for an activity for which a fee is charged to users for goods or services such as water or sewer. But it could also include funds for things like stormwater or golf courses. Although they're often treated like the same things, or the same thing, budgets for the general fund and enterprise funds are completely different. They are, however, adopted in the same manner. The procedure for adopting the budget in a city is as follows. On or before the first scheduled meeting of the city council in May, the budget officer submits a tentative budget to the city council. Now I'm going to skip down in the interest of time to another section. If the proposed tentative budget includes transfers of money from an enterprise fund to a general fund, then additional information must be included in notices sent directly to the ratepayers, and public hearings on the transfer must be held. These public hearings can be a part of the same public hearings for the budget as a whole, but the notices must be done specifically for these transfers and in a manner required by law. At the public hearing, neighbors interested must be allowed to speak on the budget. After the meeting, after the public hearing, the city council must adopt the budget and set the property tax rate. The maximum rate is 0.007 per dollar taxable value of taxable property. The budget and tax rate can be adopted at the same meeting as the public hearing, or at a later meeting, but should be done before June 30th of the year. The exception to this date is if a property tax increase is contemplated, which is what we're doing tonight. If it is then, the budget remains tentative until it is finally adopted in August. The reason for this delay is that before the city can increase property tax, it must go through a process called change in taxation. Thank you.
Dude, you were 1 second. Okay. Oh, awesome. That's good. Item number 2, conflict of interest. Are there any conflict of interest in the discussions at this time? Not seeing or hearing, we're going to move on to item number 3, which is public property. This is on all agendas and it allows the residents to present anything that may or may not be on the agenda for council to be heard. Is there anything that would like to be presented tonight? Please come on.
Where we go? Here?
Come to that station name. Yes. Come on, come on.
My name is Marquesa Van Drumlin. I am a recent new member of Fair Heights, and we feel like we've just been dropped into a little slice of heaven here. We love, love, love it. My first thing, really quick, I'm wondering if it's possible to get a mirror at the bottom of 650 North. With that new fence that we put up, it's very difficult to see around it, or you cannot see through it. And I have a new teenage driver, and I'm nervous about it, and I'm even more nervous about my new teenager. And I just would love to see if we could get some resolution with that. My next item is, I live on 650 North, so in regards to the new development there for the East Mountain Townhomes, like I said, I just recently moved here. My husband and I spent months, years even, researching where we'd like to be. My husband is very educated on real estate and all of that, and so we did a lot of research. We looked at what the city's master plan is. We looked at specifically what has already been zoned, and when our property was sold to us, the city council had already approved those as single family lots. And so we bought our property and built $1 million dream home on that property, and I would appreciate it if the city council would protect my property rights and my property value by maintaining the contract that the city already has with us, because that zoning is already in place, and to keep that plan, the master plan, and follow that master plan that the city has already put into place, and that we researched and we chose this specific place for that reason, because we knew our property value would be protected by having only single-family homes in that area that we purchased. And I am a direct neighbor of the proposed, and it will most definitely affect my property value and affect how my property is viewed. And I feel like I just would appreciate and encourage the city council to protect my property rights, because we researched and we bought with the understanding that those would be single-family homes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing or hearing, we'll move on to we have a presentation tonight. We're moving on to item number 5.1, the Hess properties variance. So at our last city council, we had a presentation from a resident about some property that is owned by a resident. I have taken on the responsibility to do as many research as I could on this. I looked into why there was. I called and we asked Jones Associates for any documentation and information that was presented on that. I looked into similar units throughout the city, specifically the condos on William Road on the west side of the city. I looked at the trailer park right behind William Road, or Cherry Hill. I also compared it against the condos at the bottom of Nichols Road, all of which are paying the fees, the city fees and the transportation fee. I went and looked at all the research trying to find out why. It was presented last week. Excuse me, I'm going to take a step back. What has happened in the past, for as long as is known, that the properties, Hess properties, has been paying a city fee on a per building, on a per building, not on a per unit. And what has happened is, earlier this year, our city manager realized that he was paying on per building and on per unit, and he upped his rates. And that's why Mr. Hess presented last week to us. I went back and tried to figure out where this came from, and why the condos, why the trailer homes, and why the condos that bottom Nichols Road are all paying higher rates. Could not find any reason why his properties was paying that. Someone had said that there was an agreement, but in talking with, I asked Aaron if he could produce an agreement as to why they were paying the rate. I went to Jones and Associates, asked them if they had an agreement. I called Brandon Green personally to see if he could tell me any information, and there was nothing. So I present the fact that had Mr. Heskin asked for the variance, I don't think, and we as a council we have not done very many variances, and we stick pretty true to the ordinances that have been passed and the reason and the rates that are set out. I don't see a reason why we would accept this variance at this time. If there's more information or if there's an agreement that is produced, a written agreement that the city got into, I would consider something different at that time, but I don't see anything. And if we go back on that, then we would have to provide that same rate to all these other units within the city. And I think if we offer to them, we need to offer to all. We need to change our ordinance and our fees and make it available and applicable to all, not just to a single set of properties. And with that being said, and with everything I have, I would make the recommendation that we deny the variance at this time. And I would open up to any questions, any discussions about
that. A few meetings ago, I suggested that when we were looking at the stormwater rate, that as it was initially enacted, we certainly did not have houses in our city that were over 10,000 square feet and double. And so as we were adopting things, we adopted with the thought that maybe it's time for Johnson Associates to go back and look at how we're doing this citywide, and then go with their recommendation. I personally think that if we want to change anything, that we need to go back to our engineering firm and ask them for recommendations. And I know that when we enacted this ordinance, we did it thinking that it's really much too hard to look at every single piece of property. And but one thing that I would be sensitive to and hopeful that we can do as part of that is to look at maybe those properties, those people who are receiving a current rate on their property taxes, and that it wouldn't be a variance. It would just be if someone comes in and asks and they are low income or a veteran having served in active duty, I believe, those kinds of things that we would maybe be able to abate those rates for them, because it's always been a little bit tricky, in my opinion, to do this, because we do give those people a break on their property taxes, but then when we enact fees, it hammers them. And so that was one of my suggestions that we looked at, and whether it's a rental or it's owned, if you look at who's living there and maybe have a way to abate those fees for those people. But I think at this point, obviously we can't do it for everybody, that our budget would be crazy, because we haven't had a study that would justify that, and those funds that need to be standalone, and those funds would not be able to stand alone.
Correct.
So as much as I appreciate Mr. Hess, because I think he does make an honest effort to keep his rents low enough for low-income people to live there. And that gives it a good flavor to our city. I think we can't do it, as you said, and so I would make the motion that we continue on a path of getting a recommendation from Johnson Associates
So, let me-
and denying, we can't do that, we can't do that. But,
so,
so at this point, I'm denying that variance.
so as the motion is saying, we would deny the variance on Hess properties. Okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
I think we could make the variance, and for a couple of good reasons. Like you said, he is helping provide what we're asking for, some low-income housing. And if we have him have to raise his rates, he would just pass it on to his renters, and that would increase their rent. Whereas I think it's justifiable to say there's been a history, and as long as he's in control and he does a good job, they're well cared for. And then as long as he's in charge, let him keep it. I mean, people do that all the time and saying, well, there's a history, and it's okay, we'll just let it keep going until things change. So we certainly could, and I think that there's a justified reason.
So the only thing that I would say to that is, there's nothing written.
So, Mayor, we have a motion, and there's no second, we can't discuss the
Right.
motion.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You're right. So we have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Sorry.
I just something to think about. If the renters that are in any of these, anywhere in the city really, if they apply or if they qualify for low income, I think it's something that we as a city should be granting them, not necessarily a specific townhome or a condo. I don't feel like we should be selecting particular entities to do that. If they want to come into the city, I think that that's something we should give them.
So let me say something that Eileen said, that if an individual goes to the county and they go through the county process to abate their county taxes, that's a pretty lengthy process. What Eileen was saying is that we as a city could provide an abatement to them on their city fees.
And
I think that's something we could do.
I'll be okay with that as well.
And so what you do that, because you're doing that for renters, so that one of the problems with looking at only the county is that they're not looking at the renters service owners. And by saying as a city, and Jeff can provide those numbers for us, I'm positive of what is considered affordable housing and the income required there. I would still see it for renters as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I would prefer to take it on the person.
On the person living there.
Person living there rather than on the building.
Yes.
So can we stay on topic on this, since I agree with that, I think that's something we can do in the future, but that's not a motion we have on the table right now.
But I kind of think that is applicable, but okay.
So-
That's my point, that's all I say, whatever.
And I agree, I think we should, and I think we should ask the city, the staff to put something together like that. I think I would support something like
But
that.
that's not on our agenda tonight, and so.
But that's why I'm saying I don't support the building, the variance for the building.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's why I don't support it.
I guess my question would be, what is considered low income? What type of rent would that be, you know?
I think that can change, and I don't know how to quantify that, I don't know how, and it's not written in an existing ordinance, it's not written down. So
Well,
I can't
the
quantify
kind
that.
of poverty levels are, and the low income is all, and what qualifies for. So if you look at what qualifies for the abatement through the actual property tax, and you use that same number. So I think it's maybe somewhere around 35,000.
So can I correct you? His question was, is how can we qualify as on a rental basis?
Because
No.
they,
So you may not qualify for low income through the county because you make more, but you're in a low price rental unit. And because the price of the rental unit, they may quote, they may be similar, but there's not a causation.
right, and that's where Gary was saying, instead of looking at the owner of the property, they're looking at the occupant.
Right.
Is that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, if rent on something's 1,500 a month, I don't consider that low income.
Right.
But it's not.
Right.
It's not just us.
And there are other rents throughout the city. They're similar. Any other questions? Okay, so a motion on the table from Eileen and a second from George to deny the variance. All in favor of approving this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
That motion carries. Moving on to ordinance to item 5.2, which is ordinance 2024-009, rezone from RS12 to R16, located at 1357 East, 650 North, Mountain Road Town Hall. This has been on our agenda a few times. This is on our, it was tabled last time, 2 weeks ago. It's now on the agenda to discuss this. I feel that it is our responsibility as a city to say yea or nay. And to provide the trust to the staff that the design, the engineering, the design, the agreements, everything are in accordance to our ordinance. I think it's time that we tell the landowner, yeah, we can't just drag this out, as we have been doing, so I put it back on the agenda to have discussion and to see if we have a consensus to either move forward or to deny the request for the rezone request.
Well, I make the motion that we approve the ordinance 2024-009 to rezone the 0.854 acres from an RS12 to an R16 located at 1357 East, 650 North, East Mountain Townhomes.
So I have a motion on the table from, I second that. I have a motion from Mark, second from George. Any further discussion on the motion?
Can I say something?
Yes, you may.
Just on the discussion part. So just as a recommendation, as I've been thinking about this, I'd like to make two recommendations as far as if you're predisposed to adopt this ordinance. The one would be that you limit it to 6 units, which is what he's proposed. And I don't really think he could get more than that, but that's what he's proposed and that's what he intends to build. So limiting it, the rezone to the 6 units as proposed would be appropriate. And then secondly, that this, any subdivision approval we do is good for 1 year. So a stipulation that says that if he hasn't received approval for this project within 1 year, that the zoning reverts back to the RS12 zone. So that if for whatever reason he fails to make this good, then the zoning just automatically reverts back and you wouldn't have to deal with it again. So I think those two things would be appropriate to put as conditions on the rezone. Everything else, we'll deal with at the staff level as we go through the approval process. And if at the time that it becomes appropriate for whatever reason to do a development agreement, we'll put that together and bring that before the city council. I don't know right now
Well, that concludes our meeting. Everything passed. So just as a quick recap, staff, Jeff Ware made a recommendation that with this motion, that we put, we specifically state that it would be limited to 6 units, and that if the development was not started,
Not more than.
I'm sorry, it would be 6 units, and then if it was not started in a year, it would automatically revert to the original RS12, or not. Do you accept those amendments to your motion?
But started in a year, is that just paperwork, or does that mean?
Just approved.
Project.
Not built,
Okay,
not even started, just approved.
so we know everything's fitting the ordinances, the setbacks are correct, the drawings been
Yes.
done in a year period of time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
We're still on discussion, right?
Yeah, well, I just was asking him if you would approve that, if you would accept that with the motion. I'm going to you and asking you if you would accept those.
No.
No?
I would not second that. Excuse me, sorry. We were talking about variances earlier, and I feel that when we start with these conditions on, we're just another type of variance, that when we pass that R16 zone, I felt that we put the appropriate dots into it, that it would be able to apply to those places in city as that buffer zone. That we decided that this was a place that needed that buffer zone, that we've got a commercial zone piece of property on one spot, and we have an R12 zoned over here. And it's a perfect place to buffer that with the R16. And so I think if we redid the general plan and looked at places to put an R16, that we would identify this lot as an R16, that we would be, at least I would be comfortable with it as an R16. And so I would second this on the conditions that it would revert back to R12, because that puts us right back to the same traditional low density, high density spaces without this transition phase, which community building now is moving towards. And so I would second that.
So what about the 6 units?
I wouldn't second that either, because I felt we developed a zone that would appropriately, within the current building standards, require that just by nature. So I don't know if it's required to be in there.
Okay. Go back to you. Do you want the
Or somebody else to second it.
Or somebody else to second it. Going back to your original motion, that wasn't seconded. Do you want those stipulations put in there, or do you not?
Does anybody second?
Do I have a second? Okay.
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table from Mark and a second from Eileen. The original motion has been modified. Okay,
Let me just throw out another discussion with what George is saying. So this is not uncommon, and we've done this before in rezones for special projects.
Actually, it's our ordinance, isn't it, for most of these two things?
I don't know if it's actually written in there that it reverts back, I don't think so, but we've done this. The only difference is that if Mr. Christensen failed to do the project for whatever reason, the property still was owned R16, so now you've got anybody else can come in and do whatever they want with R16. That's what George is saying, is that I don't care what it is, R16 is okay. You just have a known quantity in this particular case, what he's proposing to do. So it just gives you the opportunity to say, it reverts back, and if somebody else wants to propose something else, we reconsider it. If you just leave it, just carte blanche, then whenever somebody comes back and proposes inside the R16 is acceptable, is, that's automatic. So it's, that's the only difference. That's the only difference.
what are your thoughts?
Mine is still the same. The legislators, we should.
I don't know if I can say that we would do this to someone else, what do you think?
The council has approved a number of rezones that, with a reversion clause, a number of rezones that reverts back. We did it on raw orange statements.
Yeah.
If they fail to comply with the city's codes and regulations, that reverts back to an A1. It's been done at least a half dozen times that I can think of.
I think it's in the Barker agreement as well, the Barker may be coming up on a year before you know it. So.
I'd have to double check on that one, but I think it is in that one as well. This is not unique, and this is not a one-time thing that we've done only one time.
Okay, so, but I have a council member that says he feels comfortable with that being rezoned to R16. Let's rezone to R16. What do you say to that?
Jim, that's what it'll be R16 regardless of what happens.
Okay,
And what's the worst thing that could happen with that?
You don't know?
I mean, there's stipulations on R16, right?
Yes, there are. They have to work within the guides of the R16. You don't know, you don't know what the future holds. They still have to work with it, they can't just make something up, they still have to work within the guides of the ordinance.
okay.
And I would say that as legislators, we may be running ordinance for that.
Well, and that is one thing in that ordinance, it does allow a building with up to 4 units. And part of what we were looking for in this area was the idea of middle income housing where the unit owns some property around it. And that becomes very problematic if you allow a fourplex. Because you don't have the same thing.
And they could do that on R16.
That's in our zone. So one thing I would like to point out, just so everyone is clear, I felt there's been some threats saying you have to do this, you have to do this. We do not have to do this. The Supreme Court has upheld zoning, and we as a city council have the right to choose whether we rezone something or not. There's no reason that anybody could sue us if we turn this down. Zoning is legal. Zoning is legal.
But it goes to integrity. This thing's drug on for over 2.5 years. And you tell
But
somebody,
they never came back.
well, no, that's not true. I went through that in the last meeting, where on the minutes you brought that up to me. Gary brought up a couple of months ago that you were considerate. In the meeting, you never said we would consider it. If you come back with 6, we will approve it. Then you came back and you tabled it, and you tabled it. Then we said, okay, if you do a 1-6, we would approve it. And the mayor asked all of us, if this had been a 1-6, would we approve it? I still think we should approve it and be able to move forward with the plan.
Okay, so Mark, do you think you should be held to your word if you find out the truth wasn't being told the whole time? That's my problem, is I feel like it was represented to us by Mr. Christensen that his neighbors approved it and everybody was on board and everybody, all of these things. And so when I find out other information, like Mrs. Van Grellen was talking about, it comes to water for me. Because when I say something and I don't have the full truth before me, and I haven't had the opportunity to research it, I don't think it's fair to say you have to vote that just because you said that.
But how do we know that other information? Because I think people that border that have been told what to say, or they're not in true agreement. I mean, this thing is just.
It is, it's a mess, and that's what I'm saying. It is a mess based on Mr. Christian saying that all my neighbors signed it, and then yet you have a petition that somebody else took around that all my neighbors signed it, and you have Mrs. Van Gremlin saying, this is what I was promised when I purchased the property from Mr. Christensen. And so what I'm saying is, at that meeting, we didn't have all of the information. And so I'm struggling because just because we said that doesn't mean that we knew everything at the time. And when you come back and you find out that there are maybe half people, it makes it very difficult. And I don't think you can hold someone to whatever they said in that.
But I think there's probably been half-truths told on the other side too.
Well,
I think we need to look at what's best for the entire city, not what's best for one little neighborhood
And that's why
or one street.
I'm still looking at this.
To me, that trailer park between the two things is a worse eyesore than what a 6-unit.
But all we have to do is enforce our ordinance, and that goes away. I agree with you, it is an eyesore, and we have an ordinance that says it can't
But
happen.
nobody seems to have an issue with that, because when that was brought up, somebody said, well, we don't want to make an issue because that's where we park our trailer.
Well, that was
So
one
that's the
person.
type of stuff that I have issues with. And I think as a city council, we need to look at what's best for the entire city. We need to be able to have people that can afford to come here and live. We need to be able to have growth. It will help in so many areas. And who knows, if we keep kicking this thing down the road, what type of expenses is it going to cost the city for an area that's less than an acre in the city?
So Mark, just to make sure that you're clear on this issue, the part that the law has trailers in it isn't part of this reason. Just-
Well, I know that. I mean, yeah, I know that,
All right.
because I've looked at the map.
You mentioned that was.
No.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table to approve the RS1, to approve ordinance 2024-009, rezone of RS12 to an R16, with the stipulations, correct? And I have a second from Eileen. Any further discussion on that? Okay, now, to be clear, we can have a second motion, but by denying this motion, then we are denying his chance to rezone that property. That makes sense? Do you want to put forth a motion to accept the rezone, the ordinance for rezone without stipulation?
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So there's a motion on the table to rezone with stipulation, seconded by Eileen. You're asking if I want to make a secondary motion. And
To approve the ordinance 2024-009 to rezone the RS112, the RS12 to R16 without stipulation.
So the original motion.
no, I'm okay with the vote how it stands. I just wouldn't second it. I just wasn't going to second it.
Okay. Okay, so by moving forward, we are telling him yes or no, and it's fine at this point in time. You guys all right with that? Because we don't have a second with the stipulations, correct? Okay,
I'm confused, I'm new.
so right now, the motion on the table by you to approve the R16 rezone request with the stipulations.
And state stipulation.
The stipulations are that it is limited to 6 units, and that if it is not approved and meets our ordinances within 1 year, then it revert back to RS12. If this motion does not carry, then we are telling him that it is not going to pass, and he cannot come back for a year, or is it 2?
I'd have to double check on that. It may only be 6 months, but it may be a year. I don't think it's 2 years.
So he cannot petition the city council if.
Then can't we go back to the original?
Secondary motion. That helps. I can make that secondary motion. That I move that we approve the ordinance 2024-009 rezone from RS12 to R16 located at 1357 East 650 North without any stipulations.
Okay, so I have a motion, a secondary motion from George.
I second it.
Second from Mark. Do you want to withdraw your original motion? You have, I'm just asking.
Yes.
You will withdraw your original motion.
And then does that make this motion?
This will make a final motion if Eileen approves that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the table from Mark and second from Eileen to approve motion ordinance 2024-009, rezoning request from RS12 to R16 located at 1357, 650 North, with the stipulations that it would be minimum, it would be the most units could be would be 6 units, and if it was not approved and met the ordinances within 1 year, then it would revert. All in favor of approving this? Oh, it's an ordinance.
Wait, yeah. How do you have two motions?
And I think,
Because if this one fails, then we can go to a secondary motion.
So this is,
That makes sense, and it's an ordinance, so it can be done through roll call vote.
so which one are we on first?
We're on the original one, which is Mark's, it has stipulations.
I'm still confused.
It's on the original one with stipulation. Do you approve it, or do you do not?
And we do have a second.
We do have a second,
Then no.
okay?
Councilmember Ford Southern,
Yay.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yay.
Councilmember Adams,
Abstain.
Councilmember Jordan,
I can't hear. Was that me?
Yeah, sorry.
Yay.
No, not us.
Pass.
Okay, so the rezone request at 1357 East, 650 North has passed with an R16 with 2 stipulations. That there would be no more than 6 units on that property, and that if it did not, if it was not approved within 1 year, then it would revert back to an RS12. Great. Item number 5.3, we have a public hearing for resolution 2024-009, amending Through Heights City fiscal year budget for 2023-2024. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion from Eileen, do I have a second? Second from George. All in favor of moving into public hearing, say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. At 7:47. That's a good time, I like 7:47.
So this is just amendments for our current budget year, fiscal year 23-24. I'll just go through it in a few minutes. There are, first one is 10-32-300. It's the cable grant and franchise. We're under budget, about $56,000 in revenue there. So we're in budget to cover that difference. And we're going 60.
Can this is a billing cycle issue. It's not that we're losing revenue or cable and rent. It's a billing cycle issue. They pay bigger chunks every year.
5 years or whatever, and when we budgeted, and we get that big chunk this year, and we didn't receive that much.
Great. I want to,
Yeah, so it is a private contract that we have with the cell towers and with the cable TV. So, next one that we go down is doing the jail fund.
I have a question on that one, sorry. And just on super clear. You were adjusting line 10-32-300 up 60,000. Because it was down 22? I'm confused.
So, I will tell you, so the budget estimate was coming in, we're way over the estimate, because it's used, the CPA sets these up, there's a calculation that she does for each one. That's what it was actual, and I don't have the actual on here.
Oh,
It's showing, so it's full, on that estimate, it's showing that we're receiving more, but we're not actually receiving that much.
got it.
We're at 53,000 right
Okay, all right,
now.
on there.
So,
Okay, thank you.
next one is the contract service for Grove Sheriff's Department. We actually budgeted less than what our contract was for this last year. It's just putting some more money there to show actually where it's busy for our expenses. Following that is through city council. We budgeted just $2,000 for our expenses. It was $5,000 now. So we changed the expense to $5,000 now to cover those expenditures. The general capital projects. We added some revenue to that project. As far as we were right close to getting, we have some more expenses coming into that for projects that are happening. So that'll cover those expenses at the end of the year. Contributions from the general fund. Okay, line item 21,100. It's in the EC road funds or Class C road funds. So part of the projects that are happening this year to cover the expenses and keep us close to the required percentage by state. CPA recommended that we bump that amount to the 513 to hit that portion.
And that keeps us within the percentage.
Yeah, it keeps us within the percentage required by the state.
But that percentage has gone down over the last few years, is that correct?
Yeah, the city needs to stay between 25 and 35% on those two. So that brings us to that portion of.
Where is it first?
What's that?
Where is it first? What percent?
31 and 33. So there's two different areas.
And just for clarification for my purposes, and I need to roll back up and double check this. In the general fund, we are getting, like we are putting money into the general fund, but I guess we're not doing it from the capital projects. Never mind, okay. I think I'm there now. So on the, let me get back down to the capital projects again. Sorry, on the capital projects. So we started the year out and we pulled 685 from the general fund. Is that correct?
Yes.
685. And then the fund balance, and then we use, so from what we've saved before. And sorry, and I think I'm just finally getting my head wrapped around this. I think I'd be there already. But generally speaking, we get our capital projects from the general fund, correct?
So the general fund will receive money from general funds, and there's also money that can come from the fund that's it's working for. So if it's the water or so that it can come from that. The majority of the capital funds are for trails for each parks. Some of the grants we get bring it in there. Some of the sidewalk for the road projects. So we're doing a water project and we tear out a bunch of sidewalk. That comes from the water fund because that's what that's sidewalks for out. So there are some transfers to keep that capital from all sectors. The majority is from the general.
And so from the general fund, we can push stuff into the capital projects at the end of the year for future or retained earnings.
Yes.
And then we can pull, well, we can also push into the enterprise funds as well.
The enterprise funds, we try to keep them into their own funds.
If you do that, you have to have your separate.
And you'll see that with the grants we can do on.
Okay. And then, okay. And the capital funds, okay, and the use of the balance. I think one thing, sorry, this is just me talking out loud from on. I think for budgets for me is, I need to do a better job at understanding how much money is in those accounts. That way, that will help determine the budget. If we have $1 billion in that bank account, there's no need to raise taxes. But if there's only $1 in my bank account, then there's an absolute need to raise taxes.
Yes.
And so for me, I need to do a better job of being able to visualize those accounts and those.
So, and my state law require have certain percentage in your savings and all that kind of stuff. So if there is an emergency, you're not, you know, it counts. And so if you get to a certain point, you're required to build those funds back out before you do any more projects or any more expenses. Or you have bonds to bring it up to
And one last question on that. On the fund, so we used $500,000 from the fund balance. What percentage of that bank account is that, you know?
So right now, in the general fund balance,
No capital projects, because this is capital projects, right?
capital projects, I'm just looking at the, I can't remember what.
Okay, no worries.
It's on the documents I sent you for the financials.
I was just curious what percentage that was,
No.
lowering that account by. Thanks.
And then, talk about that one. Jump over to, water fund with the revenues. The $1 million and those things there are the grants we received for the East Bench water line and those kind of things. Those funds will be used in this budget, as we finish up the rest of the project up there. So that show that there's money's there and money's, miscellaneous is being used. Then, purification, which is line item 5183,250, the cost of chlorine. Sky high, probably almost 50% this last year. So when we are, things, chlorine our water system. We want to budget for that. So there's been that portion of budget to cover those costs. Then now we're the water fund for the capital outlay. This shows the difference there, and you can use impact fees on that because that's something that we can use restricted funds for impacts. That money can be used for that. So it should us. The sewer expenditures, 528310. We didn't budget high net expenses to cover what the sewer treatment is. We go back through and figure out the last few months of where we would be, and so we just need to change that expense to the system. And that's a pass-through that we send directly to the sewer. So, we collect. Then, the last one is 554310 professional technical and stormwater. We, as you see, we are way over on that budget. That is engineering that was required for the state audit. And the other requirements that the state has filled out, and it just was not, we didn't want to list for the audit, so we did not budget even closer to that audit. And that's that, and the end of the challenge. And then, solid waste, 594310. That's garbage we budgeted, less as an expense there. And we're just about $20,000 more on that expense than we thought we would be, so we had been at $220,000. That would be, the last one is 6189,650. Depreciation. This is a calculation, and I talked to CPA and how they come up with that. There's a calculation the state has that they use for depreciation. And we budgeted way over go from what we had previous years on our appreciation. So that's what we did about that.
So that's appreciation on.
All our equipment and stuff through
It's a big one.
it just goes on.
Motors, lawnmowers.
Yeah, everything, trailers, all things with movement.
Non-buildings.
Yeah. That was just all.
Can I make a comment? I feel for you having to modify the budget that wasn't put together by you. You had the budget halfway through the year, put together by Jacob. So I do empathize and I apologize because you are taking the heat for all these miscalculations on all these funds.
I think that after talking to the CPA and other cities, it is very common at the end of the year to have amendments. I talked with the finance director down in Farmington the other day a little bit, at one of our meetings, and his recommendation is to look really close in January, and we're going to do some amendments there. You guys make pretty close at that time. I mean, he said by the time you get to end of June, your amendments will get a lot less drastic or those kind of things. So that's what I'm looking for next year to see that.
We have amended our budget every year that I've been in office, but this one looks really bad. This one looks bad, and I apologize that you are the one that looks like you haven't done anything, you were way off, but I appreciate what Crystal and you have done to get us in line.
Staff requirements, so that's that, so we can turn over to the public hearing.
Great, do we have any comments? Let's see, or Q&A, I entertain a motion to move out of public hearing. Motion from Gary, second from Flo. All in favor of moving out of public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Moving out at 8:02. Okay, any questions? Do we have a motion for resolution 2024-009, amending the Fruit Heights City fiscal year 2023-2024 budget?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the resolution 2024-009, amending the 2023-2024 Fruit Heights City fiscal budget ending June 30th of 2024.
Good, great. So I have a motion from Mark and a second from Gary. Any further discussion on this? Not seeing or hearing, we will move forward with the resolution. All in favor of approving?
Resolution.
Do you think I would know that?
Yeah, yes.
Harry Anderson.
Yay.
Lauren Southern.
Yay.
Mark Cottrell.
Yay.
Eileen Moss.
Aye.
Oh.
Great, moving on to item 5.4, which is a public hearing for 2024-010, adoption of Fruit Heights fiscal year 2024-2025 operating budget, and set a date for truth taxation hearing for August 6, 2024. Do I have a motion to move into public hearing?
I would.
I have a motion from Flo. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Thank you, George. All in favor of moving into public hearing for item 5.4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're in public hearing at 8:03.
So the proposed budget, that is being presented tonight for the fiscal year 24-25 budget is showing through the taxation hearing. This is the budget that has been discussed in previous council meetings, with an increase. The increase in money from property taxes will cover increased costs of the sheriff and fire contracts. This year, the increase for the sheriff is approximately $80,000, and the increase for fire services is approximately $15,000. For that, we will most likely see same increases next year for those services. Also, money will be put into capital projects and the CPO funds. We do have money in those funds to get these projects over the next few years. Currently, Fruit Heights City has approximately $3 million in just road projects that anticipate money to accomplish those projects. The fiscal year 2023 certified tax rate for Fruit Heights was 0.001616%. On the proposed budget with truth and taxation, I will be recommending having the fiscal year 2024 tax rate, which is all go to 0.001789. This gives us about $250,000 more than we're currently receiving, and it helps the budget and helps us plan for the future. Along with that, there will be a truth and taxation public hearing scheduled to be held August 6th, 2024. At 7 p.m. here at the city office. That has to go along with it if we do it taxation. If the city feels it's not the right time to hold truth in taxation, certified tax rate from the county this year will be dropped to 0.001529%. And our final budget, the council will need to adopt a tentative budget as the final fiscal year 24-25 budget. And as we remember, as we went through there was a change in the storm drain and the project to that, which would have to be adopted in the final budget, and that would be $380,000 for storm drain project on Orchard Drive. That money would come from the storm drain fund. And then it would be a revenue shown on there, and then we would to an expense for stronger projects.
Say that one more time, sorry. And can you say that one last?
So, if you take from the fund balance, you show that as a revenue.
This is the sewer.
No, this is the stormwater. You show that as a revenue, but you also have to show that as an expense. In a revenue spot, and then also see it.
Can you hear him? And what was the amount that you're expecting to do? That's probably in there. Never mind, I can look. Great. This is a public hearing. Do we have anyone who'd like to present? Please state your name.
Dale Kunkel, 1624 Old Lake. Really appreciate this legislative body and the work that you put into things. It's a difficult situation, potentially having to do a truth in taxation. And as a resident, it's difficult to understand some of the nuances between the legislature